Welcome back, Tavis, to Los Estados Unidos from your cruise in the Caribbean. How are you feeling? Looking good.
Feeling great.
Looking young and tan and all these things.
Feeling great. Got a little sun kiss going on. I didn't get burned. I didn't, I stayed in the shade mostly and protected myself. So
yeah. We haven't really talked about it. Did y'all? What was the highlight of the excursions? I know one day you texted me you were going to Soggy Bottom or something where you, whatever it is, one of the ones that you took your dinghy to this summer.
I guess that would be a good name. I don't know how often people would go to Soggy Bottom.
What's it called though? It was like
Soggy Dollar.
Oh, I was way off. Soggy Dollar. Y'all took your little dinghy over there this summer and you went back.
Concept of Soggy Dollar is there's no dock. So you basically beat your boat. If you're good enough, you can beat your dinghy up there and you get out without getting wet. But for instance, we came in on a catamaran. Catamaran beaches it. The front ladder comes down. You end up walking in about a knee deep of water before you get on the beach and walk up. Right. So, anyways, that's kind of hints where it got its name, but it's a famous place in Jost Van Dyke in the British Virgin Islands. And it was one of the stops we made last year when we were on our BVI trip.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I recognize that name. So did y'all get to see anything new that wasn't on your other excursion?
Yeah. Yeah. So we went to a couple islands I'd never been to before. Saint Martin, which is a French, originally a French island, and the north side is Saint Martin, which is Dutch owned or Dutch, colonized. The southern part is where you see the famous beach that people go to and airplanes fly really close.
They hold on to the fence and get blown away. I've been to Saint Martin.
Have
you? All of the Caribbean, I have. I've been there twice.
Did you go to Saint Martin?
Both.
Or did you go to Saint Martin?
So Karen's parents had a timeshare there for like 20-something years. And
okay.
So they went every year for 2 weeks. I think they would go for 2 weeks. And so a couple of times we went with them. And I want to say that their timeshare was actually in the Dutch part of the island. Okay. And then we would always rent a car and then we would drive to the French part to go to restaurants and the casinos and
nice.
The beaches. And so we would get around the whole island. But kind of enjoyed both sides. It was really cool.
Did you do that beach with the planes?
Yeah.
We saw it on the option. We never went to it. But.
Yeah, they have a happy hour, and they kind of have on the on their little happy hour board, they actually have the timing of the planes that are coming in because it's a regular schedule. So you can kind of time your trip there. I've heard that they've made some changes, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty intense. If you go look up Saint Martin Airport, and man, people. Because it's such a short runway, those big jets have to back completely up on the runway, and then they just step on it, and the wind from their jets just like people can literally grab onto the fence and it lifts their feet up.
Wow!
So I'm sure that's all that exhaust is really good for you. But I've enjoyed Saint Martin.
I've never been there. That was cool. I'd like to go back there because we didn't go very far outside of the ship. We did some shopping right there, and went and found a place called Marley's Bar and Grill that had just opened. It was only like 3 months open. Older guy, looked like, he bought the place. He had his bicycle. Him and his wife had their bicycles. They were running it. They were bartending. They were doing a little bit of everything. I was like, man, what a cool life. I don't know exactly where they were from. It looks like they retired their U.S. life and moved down there and opened this restaurant. So
they really enjoyed a lot of time down there.
Facebook friend them. And then another really cool island that we hadn't been to before was an island called Martinique. And Martinique is just north of St. Lucia. It is a French colonized island, and they call it the French Caribbean. So they actually still speak French as their first language on that island. So they fly the French flag. And that was beautiful. It was very unique because I've never been to France before. So getting off and hearing everybody speak French, was very interesting.
Yeah.
And trying to navigate around was interesting as well. We're used to Spanish countries, not French countries. So
right.
So that was unique, but that was cool. And we didn't venture out too far outside of the port either, but that would be an island to go check out. It was really, really large, and it was very
Mhm.
mountainous and had a rainforest and had
That's
monkeys
neat.
and had all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah. Well, sounds fun. Yeah, I always on cruises. I enjoy the excursions typically more than. I mean, the ships themselves have a lot of neat things, but I never really spend much time by the pools or anything like that.
yeah,
Obviously you eat some cool places, you do the entertainment, but after a little while, it's like, okay, I've seen it, and then you look forward to hopping off the boat. But randomly,
yeah,
we actually have some friends who go on a lot of cruises, and they never get off the boat. Like rarely get off the boat. They
yeah,
actually really enjoy the days where everyone else is off and they get
yeah.
the boat to themselves.
Well,
And
we
so,
ended up doing that on the last stop was St. Kitts,
hmm,
and we didn't get off there because we kind
okay.
of like, looks like the rest of them. It's probably going to be the same, same thing when you get off, unless you have kind of an excursion planned. And that day we decided to hang out. We went to the pool and stuff like that. So
When I've heard a lot of the ships, the companies own a lot of those jewelry stores and a lot of those stores in those ports, so they kind of become fairly homogenous. It's you're not
hmm
really getting local. Yeah, I'm sure there's some local flair, but anyway. Well, we will get into sort of what I did in your stead here
yeah,
in a second.
let's talk
um,
about it.
yeah. Well,
Ashton
yeah.
Westbrook was in the house.
Asked. Yeah. I did tell you that at one point you texted me and I'd asked if I could drive the truck. Well, you put the truck in the shop, so I didn't have access to the truck, and so I did have the Harley. But I've never driven a motorcycle, so I thought that would have been a bad idea. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I worked hard. You stay very busy, and so yeah, you're turning over one of your midterms, and so we had some work to do there, just kind of getting it ready to rent out. And the last people had eaten some of the batteries and switched out all the air fresheners and hidden some chargers, and like it's just like really random stuff that you realize like
Yeah,
eats
the
up 2 hours of your
subwoofer
day.
cord was missing. Like what?
Yeah. Yeah, just dumb stuff, but then it eats up your time, and then you got to run over to Lowe's, and you got to wait for Amazon to
Yep.
deliver something. You got to go back over there. So, yeah, so helped get that turned over. Which I
And
will
whatever
say
you
this.
do, don't use the sugar cookie air
Oh my
freshener.
gosh, that
It
is
does not
not a
mix well
flavor
with the smell of dog and
dog.
freshly shampooed carpets.
That just made the whole house, whatever that they put it in there thinking it was like a great idea, and it was not great. But just sort of side note for those of you who've thought about doing midterms is, and I guess short terms do this too, but some of the time, um, we went over there, and I just would never have thought of this, but you have TVs in every room, and part of what we had to do was like go to every Amazon and Hulu and Netflix and log them out, try to reset everything, get all that ready to go, and then you have a specific channel on YouTube that you like to put on when people go to look at the house, so it sort of sets this tone, and like you really think through a lot of these details. So I'm sure it pays off, and you get good renters, but you have left no stone unturned there. So that was neat doing
Well,
that.
thank you.
And then we did have some small projects over at your house. I your pool was a little. I took it upon myself. Your pool is a little green, so I'm like,
Yes,
okay,
thank you.
I'm gonna I'm gonna work on this. My camera keeps glitching weird. I hope it's not
It's
something's
pretty
up there.
sad though, because I've got two grown boys.
Yeah, I wasn't
And
going to bring that up, but they were there, and I'm like, well, they're busy, and I was on the payroll for the week, and so I'm there backwashing the pool, and I'm brushing it, and Pablo's over there cutting trees, and they're dropping stuff into the pool, and so I'm just trying to make it, okay, look, I'm here, I've got some time, let's make it nice, and so we ended up backwashing that thing several times, and
yeah,
but then I took on a little project out front. You had this big rock that's a fountain, and evidently there was a problem with it. You thought Pablo was going to take care of it. I'm like, no, I'm going to try it, and it turns out it's really heavy. And you said it was 900 pounds. Well, this is after I'd
yeah,
already tried to move it, and so I figured out all this like lever system. And I was actually really proud of myself. I levered it up, flipped it over. Actually, was able to get underneath it, clean out a bunch of water and crap and all this stuff. and I'd already turned it over on the side. And then you're like, hey, by the way, be careful with it. It's got a pretty big crack on the back. And that rock is loose. I'm like, oh, shoot. So the next time I go to move it, sure enough, that thing just slides right off of there. I'm like, oh, no. I thought maybe this was like your favorite, like your third son here. It's like your favorite thing you look at every day when you leave the house. So anyway, we worked on it. But the big project was over there in Richardson, the midterm rental, Aaron, Dr. Roberts' house over there, our good friend. And
high-end midterm.
He came over actually while I was there. We got to walk through it and I got to show him some stuff. But, it was a lot of work to just kind of prepare. It was like, hey, these are all the things that might happen. Here's all the people you may have to call. And there was a lot of coming and going. I mean, we got the schmear on the front, looked really good. Pablo did a lot of work in the back to get the gutters worked out. The gutters came in. Painter was there all week. Stair guys was there. Cabinet guy were there. The cabinet guys were there. Went and picked up a big load of stuff for all the electrical order. And we had an issue with the front door staining, running all over trying to figure out that stain and all that stuff. So it turned out to be a very busy week, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It scratched the itch of flipping a house, but it does make you like, okay, I want to do this again. I want to do this again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turned out great.
I can't thank you enough because it definitely helped to have boots on the ground here. And fortunately I did have service. And so we were able to communicate, but I mean, you left me alone for the most part. I was able to enjoy, a great time and be on vacation and, get back to you when, got back to my phone. And sometimes it was a couple hours later.
Well, a couple of times I could hear in my head either Tabitha giving you a hard time or Casey giving you a hard time about.
Oh yeah,
put your phone down.
Casey definitely gave me a hard time a few times. So.
Put your phone down. So I was trying to minimize.
I think
it,
one of
there
the
were
biggest
some times that you had to, but
one of the biggest things that happened was we were at breakfast. I think we were at breakfast or lunch, one of the two, on the boat, and I got a phone call. And when we first left Puerto Rico, when we were cruising, we got these notifications on our phone. That was going to be like $5 a minute to talk on your phone,
no.
and like some stupid amount of money for every text. If you just did it through cellular, right? So of course on the Wi-Fi that wasn't the case. We were able to get on the Wi-Fi, but my phone rang and I had to take it because it was Angel. Because Angel was at the slab yard to pick up the slabs that we ordered, and the whole reason we ordered those because he had one in the shop, so I was saving money there, and so we matched it to that. And we had reserved these several weeks ago.
And you'd send them to me, and you're very proud of them. Like, man, look, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
These are great.
And he was literally there with his trailer to get these slabs. And they're like, we don't have them anymore. It's like, what? And when I was there was like, they said they had like 8 or 9 slabs of the same thing because it was all, it was quartz. So it's man-made. So it's the repeated pattern. So you can't really mess it up. It doesn't really matter on the batch. And he gets there and he's like, no, they sold them. Your hold like doesn't exist in the computer and they don't know what happened. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So then he's like, oh, when do you get back? Because you can pick a new slab when you get back. I'm like, no, like we got to get this done, you know? So he happened to be there and I was like, okay, send me what you got. This is what I want. Like, so he happened to be there and worked out well to be able to send me some pictures and FaceTime me. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So, but Casey, the whole time I was on the phone, Casey's like, what is he doing? That bill's going to be expensive. He's telling Tabitha, like, that's crazy. And she's like, he's got to do it. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So,
I heard them in my head before I would text or bother you too much. But like technology is awesome. And I can't, obviously this wouldn't even have been possible, 10 years ago, probably just the idea of sending pictures back and forth and text and like, I like that. I like that. Go ahead and go with that. Tell them to do that.
Yeah.
Tell them not to miss this, it worked out really well and I enjoyed it. And I think it's coming together, paints is, finalizing today, countertops coming in tomorrow, electrical is there today. So it was nice to be able to jump in there and kind of get
AC
my hands
guys were
dirty a
there
little
today.
bit.
They were
Oh, were they?
trimming out.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Now, if you can just get the pool guy to answer your text.
Man, you know what? He finally did.
Okay.
Like when I got back and I kind of said, "Hey, are you in or are you out?" And he's like, "Nope, I'm in. Thank you. You know, like we'll get it. We'll get it situated. Did you get an updated deck quote from the office?" I'm like, "No, I haven't gotten anything from the office." And he's like, "Okay, I'll get you new numbers for the white plaster. That'll help you out." I'm like, "Are you in or are you out? Like, I need to know if you're all in." No, I'm all in. Cool. That was a couple days ago, Monday, Tuesday. Now, crickets again.
Maybe
Back to the same.
his brother's named Trey, and he works for a wood company in town, because they seem to kind of have the same
I'm like,
business
dude.
style.
And so now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give him. I know it's Christmas. I know, but I told him today, like, I need communication. So I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to shift gears because this doesn't feel like
it's not.
I'm giving you lots of options. I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
Like, I got to get this pool done.
Time to go. Yeah, the backyard's looking good otherwise. So anyway, all right. Well, let's talk about a little bit of a market update.
Let's do it.
So the market here in the DFW, we are looking at month supply. It's on the way down. It peaked up to 4.7. We're down to 4.4 at the overall. MLS Denton County's 3.4. Dallas is 4. So Denton and Collin are actually at 3.4. So that's actually a decent little number. Homes for sale, we've been tracking that. The 10-year high is 44,374. And now we're looking at 40,000. So we've come off of our little peak a couple months ago in September. August, September, we peaked. And then we've at 43,000, we've come back down. And then when we've been looking at price decreases over the last 7 days, we've had 2,800 price decreases. So that has come down as well. So for a little while, it was right at 10% of the market had price decreases, and that's lower. So, Jean and I last week were talking about, she did a great job, by the way. We were talking about that probably means that people are just getting better at pricing in this market. And, but then the Fed dropped the quarter point. So we'll see if the interest rates do anything for that. Of course, going into the election, we've done the election, but now going into the inauguration and to see any sort of new policies that are going to pop up immediately, we'll see if the market reacts to that at all. But we had 2,800 price decreases, 2,500 new listings in the last 7 days. Overall, we've got 40,000 units for sale. The other thing we look at is percentage of overall price. This is a little bit different. Let me click one button here. For a long time, it sits around 98%. It's showing the median. Actually, this has changed. So the percentage of original price average right now in the overall market is 94. So there are more price. So back in April, it was 96, and it's been declining a little bit. It's a slight uptick now, but yeah, we're right around 94. Normally around 98, 97 is kind of a good one. That's kind of average, seems to be historically, but we're a little low on that. So people are getting a discount. We did make an offer today for Allie, and we're crossing our fingers there, and did get asking for a discount. So we'll see if that plays out for her.
Walter's sister, Wally's sister.
Walter and Allie. We went to an awesome Barraza. We went to a Venezuelan restaurant today, and I guess I look a little bit more tan than I do normally, because the lady who was helping us, she did not slow down at all with her Spanish when she was talking to me. She trusted that I understand everything. I was with Wally and Allie, so maybe she's like, "Hey, it's great family out for lunch."
And she's like, "I'm just gonna go for it."
Yeah, she's like, I'm like, "What the heck?" I just started like, "I'll take that. I'll take one of these." But I did speak a little bit of Spanish, so I held my own, and what I ordered turned out to be awesome, and so I guess I did okay.
Did he? Speaking of them, did he tell you? It pays to have people that are fluent in Spanish as well as reading Spanish, especially somebody like Walter who grew up originally
El Salvador.
El Salvador, and then immigrated here. Um, did he tell you about the text that one of my tenants sent?
No.
Okay, so I got a text, and I won't try to say it out in Spanish, but I'll just tell you that basically I got a text from my tenant, and I'm reading it, and I'm like trying to make it, and so I hit translate on my phone, and I go through it. So I'm like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. And so my translation says this. It says, "Good morning. How are you? Look, I'm in charge of a war in the house with weirdos, and I'm in the Toyota that they ate me some managers from the new truck that I bought. And I talked to Salvador. He told me to talk to you." So that was my translation.
They told him to talk to you.
Yeah. So I anyways, I sent it to Walter, and he's like, first half doesn't make sense, but the back half, I'm in the Toyota and they ate some of the hoses. It's a brand new truck I bought, and I spoke to Salvador. He said, talk to you. So that was his translation of what she sent. And she's from Venezuela.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay. And he goes, yeah, something maybe about rats. And I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, that makes sense. So then she has me talk to her daughter, and I talked to the daughter, and the daughter's like, yeah, there's some rats, and the rats got into the truck and ate the hoses. And is there anything you can do? And I'm like, unfortunately, like this particular home backs up to a golf course. And, like if they're doing any construction out there, I mean, it's cold. These rats are running around. Like, we can try to put some base stations out.
Did you apologize for the war that was going on nearby?
Oh my gosh. Anyways, I sent it back to Walter of what the translation was, and he just dying laughing. I'm like, help me, because this translation is not, I cannot imagine this being the case at all. I'm at a war with weirdos. And the managers ate my truck.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Sounds like a rough neighborhood. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Google Translate's pretty good. Have you used those? Tabitha bought you those headphones, those ear.
I have.
Do they translate? You wear them and they translate? Does it work?
I have not tried yet. They're in my truck. They need to be used. And in fact, Anthony now, he's dating a girl that's from Montreal, and her first language is French. So he's going to go to Dominican Republic here in a few weeks and meet her family, and they only speak French. And so we're going to send him off with these earbuds and let him try it.
Yeah, so. he needs to go and not tell him he's wearing them, and he just needs to know the truth with what they think.
Well, so the idea is that you can give the other person the earbud, and it's supposed to translate it for you. Is what I heard. So I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, you should try those out. That seems really cool. I mean, that would be great if you could communicate with the guys. You could at least understand them, a little bit. Yeah. But I spoke some Spanish to some of the guys. I think they
you
appreciated it that I tried.
Your Spanish is probably better than mine, to be honest. But
and one of Angel speaks really good English, Painter Angel. But and I was there enough to where he joked. He actually pulled a prank on me one day because he knew I was texting you and talking to you, and he painted the whole master bedroom and bathroom this pink color. And I'm talking like 1980s Mexican resort kind of pink. And he's like, hey, what do you think? I'm like, are you really? And I'm thinking, he ordered the wrong number. He gave you the wrong color code. Like, this is off. This is off. And I started panicking. I'm taking pictures. I'm about to text you. He's like, oh, no, it's primer. It's from another job. So they felt comfortable with me enough to like joke around with me a little bit. So.
Yeah. Anyway, that was awesome. And it was funny because you sent it to me and I knew exactly what it was, but you were just like, if Tavis liked this, I don't agree with it.
What magazine have you been reading? Yeah. All right. Let's talk about a little bit of news. So in our Dallas morning news, we have a couple of national stories, but In the Dallas Morning News, and I brought this one up because they actually mentioned Tabitha's place of employment, but they said that the downtown Dallas is the commercial and office space is lagging behind the overall area in vacancy. And it says the average of vacancy right now, I think, is around 3% or 30%. The vacancy rate in central business is 35.8, well above the average of DFW, which is 25%, basically. So downtown's 36%, overall DFW is 25%. And they're just talking about a lot of the owners of these buildings are trying to do all sorts of stuff, add pickleball courts, add hotels, add apartment complexes, try to do these transitions from office to these other kind of fancy things. And they say that a lot of these, so I guess I never put it together, but it says big names such as Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Deloitte are dropping their downtown area buildings for glitzy new digs in uptown. So the Goldman Sachs, so they're at Legacy, or not Legacy, at like American Airlines and Harwood, all that, that's considered uptown? Where Goldman's going in?
I guess they're calling it that now. It's like the new uptown.
Because the Goldman office is going in right there, right?
I guess it is north of Woodall Rogers. So
yeah, I don't know. I
mean, technically, I guess I mean, you're only a block away from like McKinney Avenue and all that right there at the American Airlines Center. But
yeah, I think of uptown as more of that area. Just a little bit further north, the trendy restaurants and the cool apartment complexes.
And you're not far. I mean, it's walking distance. I mean, you can walk from American Airlines up to.
I'm that unhip that I don't even know where uptown is. I've driven through it, and I don't even know where I am.
Yeah,
I've been to some of those restaurants, and I think I stick out like a sore thumb down there. I don't think I belong. I bring the value down when I'm walking around there.
Well, we have a Mavs game tonight, so just we can pick one you want to try out.
Yeah. So my friends actually they went to go take Christmas pictures down at what's that park downtown? The one that goes over the highway.
Yeah, that.
Oh God, I could have thought of it if I had
Clyde Warren Park.
Clyde Warren. So they wanted to take pictures at Clyde Warren. Well, they wanted to take pictures with their two dogs that I know well. We've taken care of them a bunch. But they're well trained enough, but they're not well trained to like be off leash or anything like that. So I said they've actually kept our dogs a bunch in a row. I'm like, well, look, I'll do a favor. They're going out there on I think it was a Saturday morning. I'll be the dog wrangler and y'all can take your pictures. And so they took a few pictures with the dogs, and then I was in charge of like holding them while they took off for another 30, 45 minutes with the photographer. So I'm just sitting there at Clyde Warren with the dogs. And yeah, the trend factor of people who actually hang out and eat down there and stuff is like, that's not my crowd. It's like, I don't, they thought they knew something was off. They knew I wasn't really supposed to be there. I was the hired help or something. So, anyway, so yeah, I thought that was interesting that they mentioned Goldman Sachs and all that. They're moving from downtown to uptown, and that they're doing everything they can to transform some of these buildings into hotels and apartments. And what's interesting is that, and maybe it's just really difficult to retrofit things, but you look at, we talk about Grandscape all the time. And, last week we talked about McKinney has a huge new $200 million surf park that's coming in. And, they have all the space in the world and they can kind of start from scratch, and new airport. But if downtown had other entertainment things outside of just the AAC with hockey and basketball, and that basketball probably is going away sooner than later. So maybe they'll get casinos or something, but I think they kind of just need more reasons for people to go down there.
My theory is that the Dallas Wings, the women's basketball team, as much popularity as it's gaining, I think that they're trying to push it and gain popularity, put them in American AC. And I don't know what happens with the Stars, if the Stars stay there, or what. I mean, we know that the projections and the theories behind, the Mavericks moving, to a big compound, with casinos and all that, like over by where the old Texas Stadium used to be.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying that the Wings going there would be, I'm sure it's better than nothing, but obviously their draw is nothing like the Mavericks. I just think
Sure.
there just needs to be, and there's this one guy, I can't remember his name, but we've talked about it a few times. He's bought a bunch of those buildings down there. Maybe he has a master plan, and maybe he has some big stuff, more of an entertainment thing where people actually go down there. Because I mean, there's just not a lot of reasons to, they got the farmers market. You get to go see where, JFK was shot, which is an odd Saturday morning. It's like, and then there's the Mavericks game and the hockey game, and I don't know. So I'm hopeful that they can figure it out, because I do enjoy going down. There's a different energy, and if they could kind of really build it up and make it worth going to hang out, I would love it every once in a while. But it seems like they're struggling a little bit with office now. Whenever the new administration gets in and they really start pushing for people to get back in the office, and I read another article about AT&T corporates pushing people back in. So maybe this will be this larger push to sort of end the remote working phase of things, and more these will bump up. So not sure about that. We'll talk real quick about a national story that I ran across, and evidently this is starting out in Florida, Southern Florida, and in New York. And there's an app or a website. Not sure how they're going to actually do it, but it seems like they're overlaying election numbers with real estate neighborhoods. And you can search for real estate based on how an area voted, which obviously in one way we think like, oh my gosh, we can't talk about that. You can't steer people towards neighborhoods that are only one way or whatever. But if it's public information and it's out there and people want to look it up, and it kind of gives them this better understanding of where they are. Now, I don't know that it's going to be these huge epiphanies of like, street by street, like, hey, this is a really blue area of town, or like, I think it's fairly well understood, but maybe, I don't know. But it was an interesting concept, and it seems like they're rolling it out in a few areas. So it may get here, and that could definitely throw a kink in our efforts to be fair and not steer toward different parts of town. So I just thought that was really kind of an interesting thing there. We had one more article that talked about Compass, a national brokerage, Compass, is pushing back on this clear cooperation rule. We've talked about that, and evidently more and more are working towards this, to where the idea of pocket listings would really blow up. I think our Go network and Keller Williams sees the writing on the wall, and our private collection is built basically as a pocket listing service. We do it the right way, but I think it could easily just shift towards that's just what it is. If they're not obligated to advertise a house at some point, they could actually start advertising their pocket listing service.
Yep.
They can't now, but that would be an easy marketing shift, that all of a sudden, if clear cooperation is not a part of it, that they could say, hey, come with us. We've got 8 offices locally. We've got 1,000 agents, and we've got 1,200 off-market listings right now. And that could be a huge, I could see how that would be an amazing way to go about it. So,
yeah.
Do you ever, I know we've talked about it, you've never really put anything on private collection.
I haven't. I guess for me, it makes more sense to put it out to the masses.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot more eyes and ears on it than you will going to private collection. So that the main reason for me is, it is to do that. I don't know the benefit other than the fact that, like, I guess if you're wholesaling something, the private collection might make sense,
Yeah. I like it for the testing of like a price.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can put it out, test a price if maybe they're not quite ready to move, and
I think
they just want to see how it,
didn't she?
She might have. Yeah. She might have.
I think she did. And her feedback that she got had her, reevaluate and adjust her list price before they went to MLS with it.
Yeah. I've talked about the agent next door that took that listing. She did that on the MLS as a coming soon for 14 days tested the price, and then when they went live, she changed the price, and it doesn't reflect as a price change. So it does seem smart if we use private collection that way, and especially if we had a really large database and more people were looking at it. I could see how it would have some value, but I don't know 100% the use case, except for from a marketing standpoint. From if you're a listing agent, you can say, look, we've got 7 ways we can list your house.
Right.
we can do this one. This is kind of more pocket. We can do it MLS. We can do it off market. We can, like it does give us more things to talk about. It looks good.
If you've got people too that are like, hey, I'm thinking about selling, or let's put it out there, but I don't want my neighbors to know I'm selling. It's a great way to do it, right? Like I think doing that from that piece is because you're not going to public. You go into more of a private market,
Why would someone not want their neighbors to know they're moving? I've heard this multiple times. Like, I don't want a sign in my yard. Like, what would be what?
I don't know.
I'm trying to make that make sense, but I've heard that a bunch.
Whether it's, I don't know. I think it's either 2 or 3 things. One, it could be a good camaraderie thing. Like, they don't want to lose that neighbor. They don't want to upset them, or they don't want to face that up front or something. The other side could be, like you, where you've had a neighbor snuff you, and not use you as an agent.
They've got another bitter realtor that lives next door, and he's like, let's do this really quietly. Maybe.
And another reason would be maybe you don't get along with your neighbor. Maybe you're afraid if your neighbor doesn't like you, they're going to start, making a ruckus next door.
Yeah.
Why
I've seen
you
it
have
in
showings, or come out and talk to your neighbors, or talk to the potential buyers and talk
Yeah.
about how you're a murderer and all this stuff.
Yeah. If you're in a rougher neighborhood, maybe the idea that, hey, we're not trying to advertise that we're not going to be living here, and it's a vacant house now, and we don't want people just showing up. Maybe that's part of it. But I've just heard that logic a lot of, if you don't want your neighbors to know, or you don't want a sign in the yard. I've never quite understand what would be the pro to that. But obviously enough people bring that up to where it's kind of a common thing to talk about.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, let's get to our last section, our favorite section, where we're talking about a nice listing locally. We may have to bring up Bob Green's listing. I went over to Bob's over in Grapevine. You sent me while you're out of town. He did a really cool open house. Great job there.
Yeah.
I think they had like 5 people working it. They catered it. They had drinks, and it was really neat. A lot of energy. They did a great job of advertising it and just getting a lot of people there. So that was really neat. Was that a scrape
address? Yeah, I believe that was a new build.
I'll find it here in a second. Yeah. So it's really close to downtown Grapevine, walking distance to downtown. And, we went now the house right next door for sure needs work. And it looks like it needs to be flipped, anytime soon. But, Bob, so I guess y'all use a lot of the same people. This is 215 East Wall Street in Grapevine. 215 East Wall Street.
Got it.
It was a really neat build. They use a lot of the same craftsmen, and so some of the cabinets felt similar. But it was nice to see a slightly different take. He does have a more of a masculine feel. It's kind of a masculine farmhouse. One cool feature is they had the dog bath in the laundry. Their price point was 1.4, and so it was very nice. It had a separate garage with a little office, kind of an office build out there. So yeah, kind of a modern farmhouse. But I think they did a good job. You could tell that the cabinets and the lighting were similar. A lot of LEDs built into floating cabinets, which I think looks awesome. And then their color scheme, I think they killed it. And they staged it, just did a really good job. So I'm glad I went by there. Speaking of new builds and fanciness, we'll go upstream a little bit. Bob was at 1.4. We found a house that went on the market today. It's as fresh as it gets. It's 800 East Hickory Hill Road. 800 East Hickory Hill Road in Argyle. It's almost 9 acres, 8.9. It's $5 million. And 5,900 square feet, 6 bedroom, 7 total baths. So there's a lot of pros and cons about this house. It was cool that it popped up today because there's actually a lot to talk about with this house. And I want, if you've never done this before, pause, find the address, go look this up and go through this while we're going through this, because this actually is very educational towards how Tavis is doing the house over in Richardson. This kind of talks a little bit about how Bob did his house. There's just a lot of features in this that are decisions that you may make if you were going to flip a house anytime soon in the DFW area. So initially, like the first thing you notice is the very first picture is a rendering, and your rendering software, you paid for the upgrade evidently, because there is a version out there that does an okay job, but yours just looks so much more real than this, you know? And so the very first picture you see is a rendering of the front of the house. And so then you kind of think like, is this even built? Well, you read the description. Well, it's actually going to be ready in January. It's almost ready. So you click to the next rendering. It looks even more SimCity, kind of odd, aerial view of the house. And then in picture 3, it's a real picture of the kitchen. It's not the entry, but it's just the kitchen. But this is kind of where decisions are similar. So over in Richardson, you decided to go with a very dark kitchen island, and you have some floating cabinets. You did the natural wood cabinets there. Your cabinet guy's better than this one, I think, and he matched grain much better. I don't know what wood this is. That looks like a really light walnut if it's walnut in it, but it doesn't look like oak. So I don't know. Maybe that's a pecan or something.
What
kitchen,
picture is that?
In the kitchen, number 3.
Number 3.
Picture 3.
I think it's white oak.
White oak, yeah. Really wide grain white oak. But yeah, your guy does a great job of matching grain. But the floating shelves, you've used those. You're dropping down 2 pendants over your island as well. You're doing the super dark island with light wood, a light floor. So yeah, I really like that look. But then you start scrolling through the pictures and you see that like the stairs are open tread, more modern. The wall there is, so these are concrete panels. Do you know what material this is? Like, of course they didn't pour that. So they have, do you know how they install these, like these industrial looking concrete panels?
I don't know. I was looking at that and I was wondering if it could be stucco? Like even Venetian plaster maybe.
Yeah, but it looks like poured concrete, but it's on the wall and it looks like it has rivets in it. And I think it's really cool. Very industrial, lofty feeling. And that's what they used along the stairs there.
Yeah, it could just be Venetian plaster that they made look like that.
Yeah, so I think they have some stucco or plaster. So if you go to the next picture, number 5, this I think is the living room that you see when you first walk in, because over to the left you see the huge door, the front door. You'll also see over to the right the sliding back doors that they forgot to wash. So
good eye there.
Thank you. But yeah, they have polished concrete, which you don't see a whole lot. Right. And so they actually have a transition from the kitchen to that room that's like a wood to polished concrete, which is different.
I'm not a big fan of multi-floors. Like,
yeah,
I like to be consistent. I don't know why they did that.
They went, well, one reason might be it's almost like they put the floor on the ceiling, because they went this natural wood ceiling, tongue and groove type ceiling thing. It looks cool. Like there's nothing wrong with it. And actually, overall, I really like this house. So go through picture 8. Okay, similarity number 2 or 3 to your house. You did an awesome bar area in Richardson, and you're super excited about the backdrop of your bar. It has floating shelves in the middle. They didn't do that, but it is natural wood around it. And they did this smoky glass. Smoky mirror. Now yours is a one piece. This is tile, but it's kind of the same. It's kind of similar
same concept.
Yeah, same concept. So I thought that was really neat. They're doing the black windows everywhere. They're doing gold fixtures, natural wood, really light and airy. Like it overall. So you click through. You go to picture 12. I don't know if this is I bet this is an office.
They replicated that same on 9. They replicated the same Venetian plaster. On the fireplace.
Really
And
neat.
if you look at the plugs, look how it definitely, I think it's Venetian plaster, because if you look,
Okay.
they like faux finished over top of the
Uh-huh.
plug outlets.
Yep. Black ceiling in the living room, which is something you're doing in a lot of yours.
Yep.
Really dark ceilings. Go over to picture 12. This looks like an office. I love this. It's polished concrete
Yep.
and super dark walls. They went real smooth walls, which is a higher end look, more expensive. And then they went a stain grade trim. That, to me, this polished concrete, dark walls, stain grade trim, really sharp look. I really
Yep.
like this office.
Yeah, it
They
matches the
neat
ceiling fan as well.
Yep, neat ceiling fan. That's a stain grade, or it's natural wood looking. But yeah, I mean, this is a weird little room to really love. So the other thing is, okay, they didn't stage it yet. They're not done. They didn't stage it. There's a $5 million listing. So you kind of have to overlook some of these things, and you cannot look out in picture 13. You can see where the pool isn't done.
Mm-hmm.
They have grass growing in their pool, it looks like. But that wall, I don't know if that's like a chalkboard
It looks like
wall, or
it's either Venetian plaster again, or it's like stucco that they did inside and outside there.
yeah.
Which I do like the concept of blending the inside and the outside together.
Here they went
I
wood
don't
floor
know if
and wood ceiling.
I don't know what that door is. Maybe it's a temporary door, that piece of plywood that's
Oh,
outside.
yeah, that might be temporary.
Maybe
They
that's
did.
to go into a bathroom or something.
Oh, yeah. Wood floors, wood ceiling, and it looks like they have an iron beam. You've got beams in yours, but you went cedar. These are iron beams, but they're neat. And then we get into primary bathroom, kind of a cool standalone tub, all black. They did good, frameless stuff. Their cabinets in the primary closet, really neat. They did this blend of natural with some black paint. Oh, did you see that in picture 15? They have I'm pretty sure, is that
It's
for a
set up for a
fridge?
stackable. No, stackable washer and dryer.
In the laundry room?
Yeah.
Oh, that's 220. I
Or
thought they were.
like in their master, I think it's. I don't know that. It looks like it's just 110 right there with the water line. Maybe that is for a
Maybe
fridge
for
or a coffee maker in their
soda
master
fountain.
closet. When I first saw it, I thought soda fountain. When I first saw it, I thought maybe it was for a stackable washer and dryer, but
Yeah.
maybe it's for a fridge.
So yeah, click through kind of some basic stuff, and then you go into the bathrooms. They did a pretty good job in some of these bathrooms, but a couple, then they get a little wonky. Bathroom 20. This is just this is what you get when you put your house out and it's not done yet. Like, you get pictures that you got some paint on your cabinets, you got some smudges on your countertop, and jerks like me are just going to stare at that and get distracted. But their laundry room is really cool. They have the dog wash thing like Bob did. I think that's a neat feature. That's probably not terribly expensive, and it's just kind of a cool nod to the family pet. Although that's really high. Bob's was low. That's a high one. If you had a big dog, good luck with all that. But yeah. So the other, there's another odd feature. Picture 24 is, it's upstairs. You got this hallway. It kind of looks like a game room, and I don't know what these are. And so picture 24 is like, it almost looks like bunks, or maybe they're really deep shelves for some sort of display. I cannot figure out what that is. I kind of want to tour the house just to see it. Maybe it makes a lot of sense when you see it. Although I look, you know what? If you look at the very top ceiling there, it's almost like it's sloping down somehow. Maybe that's just an interesting light. I don't know. I don't know. Probably the worst bathroom, in my opinion, is bathroom 25 or picture 25. It's just, there's a lot of colors and a lot of shades going on, and I just don't think it quite works. It's, it's masculine-ish, but not my favorite there. And then you kind of keep clicking through. Bathroom 27's got a lot going on, or picture 27's got, I've seen this tile at Floor and Decor. I've used this tile from Floor and Decor. This was the bane of my existence at Polk, because I used black tile and black grout, and heaven forbid I was on my hands and knees cleaning that crap multiple times because every chemical, every person in that house would stain that. Like it never looked right. I did not care for that. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's then they go out back into their renderings, which is just odd. The garage looks like it needs epoxy. Their painters left their supplies in the garage the day of the pictures, and so I think it's a really cool house. I think it would obviously be way better if it was finished and had staging, So hopefully they do well with it, and maybe it'll fly off the shelf, and someone out in Argyle will love their new home. So, well, good deal, man. Well, we're almost to 50 minutes. We will call that a day. Tavis is back. I'm back helping. We forgot to mention this. We called a patient of yours. A patient of yours.
Did you get a hold of him?
No.
Get a hold of her?
We called a client of yours that reminds me of patients of mine. Evidently is a hoarder that you actually sent a mailer to 10 years ago. You walked their house. They were hoarders at the time. They were not ready to pull the trigger on anything, but randomly, it's like she had a note taped to her refrigerator that said,
"Be careful
realtor."
Calling names. I would just say,
yeah, no,
a very unique person.
Yeah. No, I mean, it seems like she, probably had your name somewhere.
Yes.
And saw, realtor, Tavis, or investor or something. Because when she left you the message, it was like, well, she didn't seem like you'd ever met, but you've met her and walked through her house. And so, yeah, I'm actually excited to touch base with her because it sounds like she might be right up my alley of one of my patients I've worked with before in an older part of town, and maybe we can work with her. So we've got that coming up. If you have not yet, please like, subscribe, find us on Spotify, Apple, find us on Instagram. I'm Dallas Real Estate Guy, Tavis Westbrook, Tavis Westbrook Designs. Find us on YouTube, and we would love to connect with you. If you have any ideas for us, if you've got any favorite episodes that you want us to highlight, we're going to be throwing out some reels from some of our older episodes. So definitely let us know some of your favorites. That would be really cool to hear from you. And until next time, I hope you have a great day.